I don't even remember how to start these. That's awkward. My name's Zoe, my brain's a dragon, and I took a break, and it was really lovely. I didn't mean to take quite as long as I have, but that's okay, because it's December, and this is the season where the world sort of gets a bit higgledy-piggledy because everyone's doing so much stuff, and there's so much to get done. And also, Nano just happened, so there's not a lot of spoons to go around, so that's completely fine. It also means that my brain dragon is a little bit curled up under a blanket, which, you know, it's spring in Melbourne, so sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing, sometimes we need to remove the blanket, but Dragon has opinions about that. So best to try and tempt the brain dragon out with a little bit of interesting things so that I can try and get some idea what I want to do next year for writing. A friend of mine had this crazy and or wonderful idea that we should try and do a particularly big word crawl, which is kind of a series of random prompts that are linked to a theme, and you write random amounts of words or sprint for various amounts of times based on what the crawl says. The one that she has in mind is quite large, and so normally if you start it at the beginning of November, you should theoretically finish it by the end, but you never know, and you end up with some rather large, ridiculous amount of words. Brain Dragon was like, that sounds like a fantastic idea, right up until the point that I went, you do know that means we have to actually have another story, yeah? And then Brain Dragon proceeded to climb under a blanket with just their nose out and decide that that was not what we were doing. And so, since there's not that much time between now and January, if you think about it, and I would really like to get some idea of what I'm doing before I just start throwing words at a page, I decided the best thing to do was come up with a plan to entice Brain Dragon to come back and want to play with stories. So I have gone through and sorted out some of the office, and I have found all of my old hard drives. I am talking a decade worth of hard drives, which is kind of mind-boggling and vaguely terrifying and also kind of intriguing. I've also gotten through and had a look at all my Nano projects, so I have a list of all the things that I said I did, or at least did something on, for the months for Nano in previous examples, which means I can look at that. And then I kind of went through and looked at Dropbox, and then I went through and looked at Google Drive, and now I have a whole pile of resources that I actually have to go through and figure out what is actually there, what stories we have, and what ones maybe I want to pick back up again, because there is absolutely no reason not to pick up something I already have in the box rather than making something new, even if the new idea would be shinier. That is why this is shiny. The whole point of getting the super shiny, aggressively gold planner was specifically so that I can use it to tempt Brain Dragon out, because look! It's shiny! So, I am going to make some sections in here for my story hoard. I am going to put in divisions for each of the different story worlds that I have so that I can make sure I don't get all of the ideas in one spot and they actually need to be separated out a little bit so it makes it easier to work with. And I'm going to use ridiculous amounts of washi tape. Why? Because it's shiny and that will make my brain dragon happy. I may also have a look at some outlining or planning books that I got. I know that there were a couple in a few of the story bundles or the NaNoWriMo charity bundles that were going around this year, and so I should probably see if they're any good. Best not to test them in October, just in case that goes poorly. And if I'm just doing a little bit of essentially tidying up the hoard, I think Brain Dragon will probably get excited and then sit around and play with whatever's in the hoard. That's kind of what happens when you clean, right? I mean, you don't clean a bookshelf and not expect to spend a good amount of your time sitting on the floor reading the books, rather than deciding whether or not you should keep them or what shelf that they should go on next. And of course, there is going to be the absolute madness that is December, because it is the season of holidays and spending time with your family and trying to get the sunshine in, because thank goodness sunshine, but only in specific hours, because it is Australia and the sun does have some kick to it in December, and that can be a little awkward and uncomfortable and possibly lead someone to be bright red if there is too much time spent out in it. So I am going to go make myself a cup of tea, find out what adventures I had that I have probably forgotten, and I will tell you all about the stories that I find when I find them, or alternatively I will tell you that I have found them and that maybe it was not such a bad thing that they were hidden at the back of the hoard. Thanks for popping in, and I will see you next time. Bye, lovely!